The UK Information Commissioner's Office, a government body with the legal authority to fine corporations billions of pounds for privacy violations, contacted Microsoft in June 2024 and demanded answers. This was not a complaint and not a suggestion. It was a formal regulatory inquiry into whether Windows Recall, the feature Microsoft spent more than a year marketing as the reason to buy a new laptop, was even legal to deploy. Universities across the UK and Europe had already blocked it. Hospitals had flagged it as a federal compliance violation. Government IT departments had quietly added it to prohibited software lists before it ever shipped to consumers. And Microsoft, the company that bet its entire Copilot Plus PC hardware campaign on this feature, had not released it to a single mainstream user. In this investigation, we are going to expose 3 things Microsoft never wanted you to understand. First, what Windows Recall actually does, because what Microsoft buried in its own documentation is legally indistinguishable from surveillance malware. Second, the compliance catastrophe that made Recall automatically illegal in every hospital, university, and government agency that operates under data protection law. And third, the hardware extraction scheme that made you pay a $400 premium for a machine built around a feature that has never been publicly released. Bill Gates built Microsoft's dominance on controlling what runs on your computer. What is happening right now is that governments, institutions, and independent researchers are dismantling that control one regulatory filing at a time. The story starts with what Recall actually is, because Microsoft's marketing never told you. For 30 years, Microsoft has been very careful about how it describes what Windows does with your data. The language is always passive, always technical, always designed to make surveillance sound like a service. Recall was different. Recall was the first time Microsoft put the architecture in writing in plain enough terms that security researchers could read it and immediately understand what they were looking at. Kevin Beaumont, one of the most respected independent cybersecurity researchers in the industry, published his analysis in June 2024. What he found was not a theoretical vulnerability. It was a design choice. Windows Recall, as Microsoft built it, takes a screenshot of everything on your screen at regular intervals, including your banking portal, your medical records, your private messages, and your passwords as they appear on screen, and stores all of it in a plaintext SQLite database on your hard drive, not encrypted, not protected by administrator access requirements, accessible, as Beaumont demonstrated, to any piece of software running at standard user privilege level. He called it a perfect info stealer, because that is precisely what it is. Any malware with basic system access could sit quietly, wait for Recall to do its work, and then exfiltrate months of your entire screen history in a single operation. Read that again. Microsoft designed a feature that photographs everything you see on your computer, stores it unencrypted, and made it accessible without administrator privileges, and they planned to ship it as the default on state. This is not a theory. This is documented in Kevin Beaumont's published research. This is confirmed by Microsoft's own documentation, which acknowledges that Recall processes everything you see. Microsoft's response, when the research became public, was to announce that Recall would be delayed. Then they announced it would be opt-in instead of opt-out. Then they pulled it from general release entirely and sent it to the Windows Insider testing program, where it remains. They did not fix the architecture. They did not change what Recall does. They changed when it would appear on your machine. Every Copilot Plus PC sold since June 2024 contains the hardware infrastructure for a feature that Microsoft has not felt confident enough to ship to the public. That is not an accident. That is a company that built a surveillance engine and discovered too late that the public had noticed. But the security vulnerability was only the beginning of Microsoft's problem, because when compliance lawyers at hospitals and universities read Beaumont's research, they did not just see a security flaw, they saw a federal liability. Here is how data protection law works in practice. You do not need a named announcement, a press conference, or an executive quote to prohibit a piece of software at an institution. You need a compliance lawyer to read the law, read the technical documentation, and conclude that deployment creates liability. That conclusion, made quietly in legal departments at universities across the UK, Europe, and North America, is what effectively banned Windows Recall from every institution that handles protected data. And that is almost every major institution in the world. Start with FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Every college and university in the United States that accepts federal funding is legally required to protect student education records from unauthorized disclosure. A device running Windows Recall that a student uses to check their financial aid account, review their academic transcript, or access their counseling records is continuously photographing that data and storing it in an AI searchable database. The FERPA violation is not hypothetical. It is structural. The feature works by capturing everything. The law says you cannot capture this. The math ends the conversation before it starts. FERPA violations carry consequences so severe, loss of federal funding, that a university's entire research grant portfolio is on the line. No IT department on earth is authorizing that liability. Move to HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Every hospital, every health network, every clinical environment in the United States is required to implement technical safeguards for protected health information. A clinician using a Windows Recall-enabled laptop to pull up patient charts is generating a continuous photographic record of that patient's medical data. The HIPAA Minimum Necessary Standard explicitly prohibits capturing more patient data than the specific task requires. Recall captures everything, continuously, by design. Civil penalties for HIPAA violations reach $1.9 million per violation category annually. No hospital administrator is approving that exposure. And then there is GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, which applies to every organization processing the personal data of people in the European Union. Article 5 requires that data processing be limited to what is necessary for a specific purpose. Continuous screenshot capture of all on-screen activity cannot be reconciled with data minimization under any interpretation of that standard. The UK Information Commissioner's Office understood this immediately. In June 2024, the ICO contacted Microsoft directly, a formal regulatory inquiry asking the company to explain how Recall complied with UK data protection law. It was the first government body in the world to formally intervene, and it did so before Recall had shipped to a single UK consumer. The ICO's inquiry sent a signal that every data protection authority in Europe understood clearly. Recall, as designed, is a compliance liability in every jurisdiction where GDPR has force, and GDPR has force in 30 countries, representing some of the largest PC markets in the world. Microsoft's target market for Copilot Plus, PCS, enterprise, education, healthcare, government, cannot legally deploy the feature that the hardware was sold to run. They paid the premium. They absorbed the compliance review costs. They concluded what the law already said, and they blocked it. This is not a consumer story. This is an institutional rejection of a Microsoft product by the exact buyers Microsoft needed to validate the Copilot Plus investment. And now let us talk about the part that connects directly to your wallet, because Microsoft did not just build a surveillance machine. They charged you for the hardware to run it. To understand how the hardware extraction scheme worked, you need to understand one number: 40 TOPS, tera operations per second. That is the minimum neural processing unit performance required to qualify a laptop as a Copilot Plus PC. It is a number Microsoft invented, wrote into its hardware specification, and used to draw a line through the entire existing Windows 11 installed base. Every laptop you already own, every desktop you built last year, every machine that runs Windows 11 perfectly well today, none of it qualifies. None of it has an NPU meeting. Microsoft's threshold. What this means in practice is that every major laptop manufacturer, Lenovo, Dell, HP, ASUS, Samsung, Acer, had to redesign their product lines around a new component requirement at Microsoft's direction. NPU-capable processors carry a cost premium, and that premium flows through to the retail price. Copilot Plus PC models landed on shelves at $200 to $400 above equivalent non-NPU models with otherwise identical specifications. Same screen, same battery, same keyboard, same RAM, but with an NPU and a higher price, and a Copilot Plus badge that entitled the buyer to access the feature Microsoft had spent a year marketing. That feature was delayed before a single Copilot Plus PC had shipped to consumers. Then it was made opt-in. Then it was pulled from general release entirely. The flagship justification for buying a Copilot Plus PC has never been publicly available to mainstream users. This is the part that should change how you look at every hardware upgrade cycle Microsoft has ever pushed. The TPM 2.0 mandate that made perfectly functional machines ineligible for Windows 11 followed the same logic. Microsoft writes the hardware specification. Manufacturers absorb the component cost. You pay the retail premium. And Microsoft collects the ecosystem value of an upgraded installed base, whether the feature that justified the upgrade ever ships or not. Lenovo already calculated what Windows costs to ship on a per-unit basis, license fees, bloatware arrangements, return processing, support costs, and decided the math no longer worked. Add the NPU premium paid for a compliance-grounded feature that is never shipped, and the calculation becomes even clearer. You were sold hardware for a surveillance product. The government blocked the surveillance product. Microsoft kept the upgrade cycle. The institutions that banned Windows recall did not do so because they are ideologically opposed to Microsoft. They did so because compliance lawyers read the documentation and concluded that deployment created liability that no board of directors would authorize. You have access to the same documentation. You can read the same research Kevin Beaumont published, and you can make the same calculation. If you want to step off this cycle entirely, the tools are already available, and they cost nothing. Ubuntu is the operating system that Lenovo chose for its Linux laptop pilot, the same pilot that dropped return rates from 11.4% to 2.1%. Linux Mint is built specifically for people switching from Windows, with a familiar interface and no learning curve. Zorin OS is designed to look and feel like what Windows used to be before Microsoft decided your laptop was a data collection endpoint. You do not need to commit to anything. You can download Ubuntu and run it from a USB drive on your current machine without touching a single file. You will see, before you change anything, whether your printer works, whether your applications run, whether the operating system that compliance lawyers and security researchers prefer is something you can actually use. For hardware, Lenovo's ThinkPad line certifies Ubuntu natively. Framework laptops are built for Linux from the ground up. System 76 ships machines with Linux pre-installed, and it builds the operating system in-house. Avoid Windows recall. Avoid OneDrive forced sync. Avoid the Copilot button. These are not features. They are collection infrastructure dressed in a marketing costume. Bill Gates built Microsoft's empire on controlling what runs on your computer. Governments across 3 continents have now begun limiting that control through law. You can limit it yourself through choice. Stop letting them own your computer. If you want to know which other Microsoft AI features are headed for the same regulatory wall that stopped recall, watch this video next.